Is this the most controversial top fantasy books list? Well, Illumicrate recently published a list called 100 Best Sci-Fi, Fantasy and Horror Novels of the 21st Century, and today I wanted to react to it.
Where's Game of Thrones?
Alright, top 30. It's gonna get spicy now. We have Mexican Gothic.
No!
I know.
No!
I did want to bring in someone that actually can bring a different perspective to this list. Vera.
Hi, my name is Vera and I am 21 years old. So I actually grew up following the trends and the growth of the YA genre because a lot of people would consider that it officially began with the later books in the Harry Potter series. And, you know, when those books were coming out, I was just behind the curve. And so I always saw what the progression of YA was, because those were the books that I was aspiring to read at the time. And so perhaps I could have some insights.
Yes, and bring a different perspective to this list, because I just don't want to be seen as someone that just hates on YA, because I definitely do. I read YA when I was younger, absolutely loved it. But I wanted to ask you, what are some of the best or most impactful YA books of the 21st century, do you think, off just top of your head?
Yeah, so I think that when we talk about like influential books, we should probably look at books that did have a noticeable impact on trends in literature. And I think the big three that really come to mind for me are Twilight with 2008 and the paranormal romance craze that followed, The Hunger Games with then the dystopian phase that followed, and those then morphed into Throne of Glass, and more impactfully ACOTAR, which we're now seeing the big boom of fae-centered romances, and more specifically the birth of a new subgenre called romantasy, or at least the term romantasy.
Well, I agree, and I think if we don't see at least those books mentioned on this list, it'll definitely be a controversial list. I actually created like a bit of a overview. Let me just share it here. So, I mean, I don't expect all of these books to be mentioned, but just top of my head, these were some of the books I thought like as adult epic fantasy. Do have some YA like Twilight and Harry Potter as well, but I would expect at least to see half the books mentioned on this list. But we'll let us see, because yeah, someone actually told me this list is controversial, and I'm just really curious, like what makes it actually controversial. So I also thought we should maybe just read what they say this list is, because maybe we're getting something wrong here. So they just say, we at the Illuminate team have taken it upon ourselves to nominate, vote and rank what we believe to be the best and most impactful sci-fi, fantasy and horror books published in the 21st century. So I think initially when I heard this was controversial, I was just thinking, oh, they probably just say these are our favorite books. But they do actually mention that these are the most, also not only best, but impactful books. So if you don't have any of the heavy hitters, then it definitely makes it a bit controversial. So 100 to 90. Okay, this is crazy to me. The Kingkiller Chronicle on 98. Genuinely, this is, and I haven't read it, but this has genuinely been one of the most impactful adult epic fantasies of the century, easily. I would expect this to be in top 10. Definitely top 20, but like 98. Like, I know the author, you know, he's in the layers of controversies, people hate him. This is crazy. Do you think I'm overreacting here? I feel like this book should be so high.
Honestly, this makes me more curious what books they put like higher on the list, because yeah, it is very impactful, and especially in the adult high fantasy sphere. I don't know how it compares sales wise to the other books on this list, but yeah, seeing it this low is definitely, I don't know what's going on.
No, and it's definitely sold at least 10 million copies, maybe more. Pretty crazy. All right, let's continue, but yeah, okay, we have one controversy for sure. Illuminate. I think I'm gonna have a big issue already now with this list, just because I'm happy with Illuminate being on this list, but are you gonna say that this is more impactful than Kingkiller Chronicles? I don't know.
No way.
I'm just gonna keep referring to that, but obviously, like, the series isn't as impactful. Moving on, Nevernight, and then we have.
Sorry. You're saying that the magical boob job book is above The Name of the Wind?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have seen, like I said, I've seen more books that have the, oh, let me tell you my story vibe than the magical boob jobs. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know why this book is higher. The Name of the Wind. Sorry, I know it should be on this list. When's the last time you heard someone talk about Nevernight?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the big thing is that Nevernight could be on this list, but when you put Name of the Wind on 98th, you just gotta continue to say, like, but how is this book more influential than Name of the Wind, one of the most influential books of the decade for sure, at least in the fantasy sphere. Scythe. Yeah, I think that probably deserves to be on here.
I think it should be higher.
94. Cloud Atlas. Yeah, definitely very
classic.
iconic.
To be honest,
Definitely
one that I'm surprised isn't higher. Because,
Yeah.
like, based on literary merit alone, this book is an achievement not only in the sci-fi and fantasy spheres, it has transcended into the literary fiction aisle, right? And so John at Talking Story actually always says that, like, we need to reclaim this book for our own shelves, but this book has so much acclaim, and rightfully so, because it is truly transcendent. It shows the importance of stories throughout time and the intertwining of stories throughout time, how we are influenced by our past. And it's truly such an achievement. I am astounded. While I was reading, I was astounded by the craftsmanship of Mitchell. And yeah, to be honest, I'm surprised this one isn't higher.
I've had it on my shelf for a while. I need to pick it up then. That was really a good pitch for it. All right, we finished the first novels. I already feel like there's a lot of controversy here, especially with Name of the Wind being so low, Nevernight being higher. Let's get into the 90s. Her Body and Other Parties. Don't know this one.
Carmen Maria Machado is one of the best horror writers. I love her. I need to read this short story collection.
And this is why I invited you, because I don't know about this book. So yeah, I'm just going to keep reiterating what I'm saying, but like, how are you going to put a book that is 3 years old higher than Name of the Wind that came out, you know, almost 2 decades ago, has had a legacy, but I'm sure this is a good book, but I just find this ranking to be very problematic.
Yeah, and I feel like for example, I haven't heard of that book, and I think it's very difficult to measure the influence of a book that has been out so not very long.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. Like, in my mind, will you hear about this book in the next 25 years? I don't know. Name of the Wind came out when? We still hear about it now.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Inkheart, or Ink World Series by Cornelia.
I love this one, but why is it above Cloud Atlas?
All right, we have a book from last year, The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi. Obviously, like S.A. Chakraborty, big influence on the genre, but I wouldn't even put this ever on the top 100 list. Holly Black, we'll probably see Holly Black quite often on this list, don't you think?
I feel like there are better choices than this one.
I'm sure there will be later on.
I'm sure they'll be higher, yeah.
I read this book last year, didn't blow my mind by any means. Now, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist here, but I have noticed that some of the books mentioned here have had Illumicrate special editions. Pretty sure this one has had one. So, like, I'm not claiming anything here, but you're just wondering if that does have an impact on which books they've actually put on the list. This book is only 3 years old, but this is genuinely one of my favorite sci-fi novels of all time. Love this one.
I'm not sure who said this, but someone said that they never read books at the point of publication. They read it always a year afterwards, just to see if the book is still being talked about, because oftentimes we find ourselves jumping onto hype trains for books that year from now are going to be irrelevant, regardless of how much hype they had at the start when they were just getting published. And if they survive a year, 2 years, and they're still being talked about, then that's probably a good indicator of if they have been impactful or not.
All right, let's go to 70 to 60. We have another Naomi Novik book here.
I'm just really shocked that this book is this high, because it had loads of controversy around it.
Lies Lochlamora. Okay, I have something to say here. I mean, it's very, very similar to Kingkiller Chronicles, but again, I think that this is easily at least a top 25 most impactful books on the genre, potentially even higher. I mean, Name of the Wind, Kingkiller Chronicles, like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Those are the books you usually mention and group together. Genuinely, this is also one of the greatest books I've ever read. So I'm happy to see it on the list. But man, it should be so much higher.
I'm going to disagree with you. I do agree it should be higher. I do agree it should be higher, but I don't think it should be in that top 25. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the books on this list will be, but when we talk about the group of Game of Thrones, Kingkiller, Gentlemen Bastards, Game of Thrones at the top.
Yes.
Kingkiller top 15. Gentlemen Bastards, I think it is a huge series, but it's a huge series within our niche.
We have the three-body problem, and this actually is evidence then that they are not taking into account that the author is controversial or not. At least I think so, because I know this author has had quite a lot of controversies with some of his statements in the past. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we'll see any Neil Gaiman or J.K. Rowling later on this list. All right, let's go to 60 to 50. Legendborn.
I feel like Legendborn is one of the ones that I'm shocked is not higher, because, you know, something that YA is really, really great with is there's so many different authorial voices in YA, and so many different, especially now, like representations of relationships and people from different cultures and people from different races. And I feel like Legendborn was one of the ones that really, really made an impact, especially with a POC main character in, I believe it's the King Arthur retelling. And so I am shocked that this one and the Tomi Adeyemi series, The Children of Blood and Bone, I'm really shocked that these two aren't higher.
House in Cerulean Sea. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't know. Feels quite high for me. Have you read this one?
Yeah, I have, and it's another controversial one, actually. So more evidence for your hypothesis that controversy doesn't affect the list, perhaps. You could say that it was one of the first books to dive into cozy fantasy. So with this one, I can see the impact despite it being only 4 years old.
All right, Vera, we do have the first Sarah J. Maas on spot number 55. You happy?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Throne of Glass was gonna be lower than ACOTAR because Throne of Glass, it does lean more fantasy than romantasy, especially at the start. And, or no. Well, I can see the argument go both ways because the series is kind of divided, kind of half-half. I'm not shocked that the series is on this list. I think it should be on this list. And I think it's, yeah, middling. I was expecting it to be in the 40s, but I guess I wasn't far off.
House of Leaves. Yeah, not surprised to see this one here. I haven't read it, but when it comes to... I'm scared.
I love this book. It's one of my favorites of all time. It is the craziest experience I've had when reading a book. Its purpose is to prove that the form, the medium of the novel has value in storytelling by itself. There is no audiobook version of this. There is no ebook version of this that is sold. It is a monumental achievement, especially in ergodic literature.
Sort of Kaken. Okay, I'm actually surprised there's a self-published book on this list, but generally, I think this is one of the greatest novels, or at least standalones, I have ever read. Still a bit surprised it's this high, but yeah, when it comes to emotional impact and just enjoyment, I would probably rank it high, but it's not as impactful as Name of the Wind, Lies of Locke, Cloud Atlas, and a lot of the other books we already mentioned. So, but I'm glad to see it on this list. Well, yeah.
Okay, I hate to be that person, but I'm going to push back on you again. I think it is very impactful because it gave a lot of credibility to other self-published authors, because I feel like there's this stigma around self-published fantasy and books in general that they are worstly written and stuff like that, and sort of Kaigen disproves that, at least according to most reviewers. And so I think that it did have a big impact in that way.
No. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I do definitely agree with that one. Yeah, I suppose my point is that even if that is the case, would you still rank it higher than Name of the Wind? No. But I'm glad to see it on this list. No. I just suppose, yeah, if Name of the Wind was higher, then this would be an adequate ranking. But I love this novel. It's one of my favorite books of all time. All right, top 50.
Yes, it should be higher, but I'll let it live. It's genius. Sorry, it's really one of the great novels of the past 25 years. I 100% agree. It brought the YA dystopian craze to the adult sphere, and it connected it with the past. So it focuses a lot on Shakespeare and the importance of storytelling as well. And it's these narratives all intertwined, and it's really amazing. I think it's her best work so far, at least out of the ones that I've read. And yeah, I'm surprised that it's not higher.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh. How is Stormlight Archive number 47? I know you're going to say now that, it shouldn't be higher, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But genuinely, when we talk about epic fantasy, this is one of the most popular and influential series of all time. I just feel like YA is getting really highly ranked, and a lot of the grades in the epic fantasy are very, very low. I don't know. Am I overacting here?
I do think it's a bit too low. I was expecting the Stormlight Archive to be...
top 30, at least?
I don't know. In the 30s. Somewhere. I think it is a bit too low, but I wasn't expecting it to be in the top 10.
Hopefully, at least Mistborn will be a bit higher, because that series came before. We'll see. I'm sure it's in this list now, since Way of Kings is on 47. All right, The Expanse. Yep, I think The Expanse definitely deserves to be here. Maybe this is a good ranking. Yeah, it's had a really popular adaptation as well. 8-book series. definitely one of the most influential modern fantasy series, along with Red Rising, I would say. Maybe we'll actually see Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and Dark Tower and Malazan now, because some of these books I've been missing are actually starting to turn up. All right, we're getting in top 40s. Let's go. We have a Becky Chambers book.
That makes sense to me, but not above Way of Kings. Sorry.
No, that's it. Then we have Divergent. Okay, I'm just going to let you talk about this one.
The Book Leo made an amazing video kind of defending Divergent, with her argument being that ultimately the point of adult dystopians is critiquing society. However, young adult as a category focuses more on the growing up aspects of teenage life, right? Whether it's the first love, figuring out who you are as a person, your passions, your values, and that the Divergent series with its 4 or 5 different categories that people sort themselves into, dauntless, erudite, candor, whatever, that those are kind of representative of different personality traits that people assign themselves to. Similarly, into how now on TikTok and YouTube online, we have the tendency to say, oh, I am a cottagecore girl, I am an alternative indie person, whatever. And that this kind of serves that similar purpose for young adults, and it provides a commentary on it. I see her point, and I can't lie that it was a very popular book. I don't think it's talked about as much. The movies were panned to such an extent that the final movie was turned into a TV show and then never came out, and the actors themselves spoke out against it. Perhaps ranking it this high is premature.
Red Rising. Okay, yeah, I mean, maybe 38 is adequate. I definitely think that it's definitely one of the more influential sci-fi novels. Again, I'm not sure if it's more influential than The Expanse, but I'm relatively happy with this ranking.
I think it's more popular.
Yeah, maybe. Just hasn't had an adaptation, so I'm just having a think if that is having an impact. But this novel is definitely being recommended a lot still. And I think one of the nice things is that I think a lot of YA audiences will enjoy the series, but also a lot of adults, so it does kind of reach, a wider audience in that sense. Hey, your favorite series. Number 37.
It's not my favorite series.
You're not happy with number 37?
I think it should be way higher. It's not my favorite series. I wouldn't really call myself a fan of ACOTAR. However, it should be higher. I was
everywhere.
expecting top 10.
This series here is like a series you've seen it everywhere. People keep recommending it, and definitely was one of the key drivers behind what has now become romantasy. Then we have The Martian. Don't want to keep saying everything's controversial in this list. This is probably a relatively good ranking for this book. It had a fantastic adaptation as well. Our favorite author, Robin Hobb. Okay, I mean, more and more books that I think should be on this list are actually turning up now, so this is actually a good sign. Haven't read this one, but this is the culmination of like almost 2 decades of work from one of the most influential adult epic fantasy authors. Just because of the impact, Robin Hobb should be on this list, and number 32 is probably a relatively fair ranking, I would say. All right, top 30. It's gonna get spicy now. We have Mexican Gothic.
No,
I know.
No. Okay, Johan, I was lied to by the entire internet. They were like, Vera, pick up this book. It's gonna be amazing.
Oh.
No,
I want to read it.
No,
everyone hypes it up.
It was, oh my god, wasn't it a retelling of like The Yellow Wallpaper or something? Which is one of the best short stories ever. Revolutionary when it comes to talking about mental health postpartum. This book had so much going for it, and it doesn't live up to almost anything.
Yeah, more than a year ago, I made a video where I combined loads of like top fantasy books lists. I looked at like 20 different lists and gave them different points. This book, I think, came number 15 as number like the 15th best horror book of all time. So it's not only on this list. This book is mentioned on a lot of different places on the internet as one of the best books.
Well, people are allowed to have their wrong opinions.
All right, let's move on. Mistborn. Yeah, I mean, personally, I would have put Mistborn a bit higher. And this is the book that made Brandon Sanderson explode into fame. And he is now probably top 5 ongoing epic fantasy authors at the moment. So, and also I want to say, if you look on BookTube, this is genuinely one of the books that is mentioned again and again and again as one of the most influential books of people actually starting reading epic fantasy. I definitely think this should be on here. I personally wasn't a huge fan of the 5th season, but this whole trilogy received 3 Nebula awards. So literally every book has received a Nebula award, which I believe has only happened once or maybe never.
I think it's highly experimental, still talked about, loads of awards. It was on the New York Times list as well, both of them I believe. Yeah. And so I'm actually quite shocked that Illumicrate put it this low, but
my favorite standalone of all time, Pyranesi, and genuinely this is a masterpiece. And I know this is a relatively recent publication, but this is a novel that genuinely has been talked about so much, praised, won awards. Maybe it shouldn't be this high, but yeah, probably at least top 30, top 40 at least, and I'm really glad to see it here.
I think that it has been talked about a lot. Didn't it win like the Women's Prize for Fiction, right? Susanna Clarke is really talented.
Madeline Miller has popularized or brought it back into the forefront of retelling Greek and Roman mythology and stuff like that. So it probably deserves to be quite high. Top 20, I'm so hyped. And top 10, like, I feel like there's so many books. Like, if I just have a look at the list I mentioned earlier, right? We haven't had any George R. R. Martin, Joe Abercrombie, no Stephen King. We haven't had Jonathan Strange yet. No Malazan, no Greenbone. I'm not really sure if Greenbone should be in top 20 anyway. No Harry Potter, no Percy Jackson. Iron Widow, 2021. Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. Then we have The Night Circus.
Oh, yep. I'm
you
so
love this
happy
one?
It's here.
Legends and Latte on number 17. I don't know, maybe. I think this book came out, during the COVID pandemic, and it really brought cozy fantasy to life. It popularized it. I wasn't a huge fan, but I know this is a novel or a series that, again, it has a legacy. People still recommend it, love it. Daniel Green, he raves about it. Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lani Taylor. Song of Achilles. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned Cersei, so to be on 21. This is probably quite a good ranking, I think.
Agreed.
Number 13. Yeah, I don't think this one should be this high. I personally didn't enjoy the first one. And yeah, you could make an argument that this was one of the early, like, cozy sci-fi novels. Like, way before House in Cerulean Sea and Legends of Latte, we had Becky Chambers doing very, very similar stuff. You could make an argument that she actually laid the foundation for what later would become cozy fantasy. But I haven't heard many people make that argument. Shadow and Bone. Vera, you look so angry.
Okay, I'm just letting again, it's my personal biases. I hate this trilogy. I hate this trilogy. Book 1 is bad. Book 2 is fine, mostly thanks to Nikolai. And book 3 is awful. The character assassination, disgusting. I hate that book.
Top 10. I already know there's a lot of really important books that are not going to be in here, because I have at least a list of 10 books that I haven't seen. Okay, I love Greenbone Saga. It's one of the best trilogies I've read, but I would never put it in the top 10. Because, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't have a long enough legacy to be on number 10. Top 50? Maybe. Top 80? Probably, definitely. 10th spot. And I like, it breaks my heart because I love this series so much, but I would never put it this high. Alright, spot number 9. We have Twilight. Okay, I expected this to be top 5, but yeah, definitely needs to be on here.
I was expecting top 5 as well, but yeah, it's one of the most impactful series still. Perhaps in an ironic sense now than it was 20 years ago, but you can't dispute its impact.
Number 8, Holly Black, The Cruel Prince.
The fact that this is higher than ACOTAR is insane. It is quite popular, but it's not more popular than ACOTAR, and it is derivative of ACOTAR, I think.
This is how you lose the time wall.
I'd say top 15 would have been better, but I'm not shocked that it's this high.
6 of Crows, 6th spot. Yay! Finally get a glad Vera.
Yes, this makes sense to me. Kaz, Inez, Jasper, Will, my Nina and my Matthias, they are my cutie patootie babies. I love them so much.
Spot number 5, Gideon the 9th.
What?
Yeah, I mean, this list is just a bit crazy. Yeah, maybe it should be in the top 100.
What's the justification?
Yeah, but like, genuinely, what is the justification? Top 100, yes, you can find a
Yeah.
spot for it in top 100. On 5th spot.
That's insane.
But this is actually serious. I really want to read really, really soon because I've heard it's
Yeah.
super, super weird and strange. I'm expecting to love it. This is going to be crazy. The last 4 spots, I don't know what's going to happen. Poppy War
What?
on the 4th spot.
Top 50?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I really enjoyed the Poppy War, but I would never put it in on the 4th spot. Let's do top 3. Let's do it. Percy Jackson. Okay, that's one of the books I actually did mention. Yes.
Of course. Yes. I can't believe I didn't bring this one up earlier. I don't know why. You know what? I
Yes.
forgive Illumicrate for its crimes.
But genuinely, there's no American Gods, there's no Game of Thrones, no Harry Potter, and we have 2 spots left. No Blade itself.
No, but I understand why it's not. Wait, Johan?
Yeah. Second. This is... It's just quiet.
Okay. I don't... I'm rarely left speechless. But congrats, Illumicrate. You stole my breath away. Okay.
This is genuinely insane.
I don't deny its impact. It's highly talked about, highly, controversial as well. Top 20, perhaps. Where's Game of Thrones?
I had no idea, and I think they never mentioned it. As far as I could see, they never mentioned it, but they didn't say that the series had to have started in the 21st century. Because obviously Game of Thrones started in the 90s, but there's been at least 2 books published in the 21st century. And they never mentioned that as a criteria, that the series has to have started this decade. So if they had mentioned that, that would have been like, obviously, we're not going to have any Malasan because I started in the 90s. No, they had like fits in the full trilogy though, which I know technically it's a trilogy.
Yeah, but wait, don't move yet. So that would also disqualify Harry Potter because it was 1990s. 1991 was it when the first one was released?
Yeah, they never specified, but
okay, what's your bet for the top one?
Hunger Games has to be.
Oh yeah.
Or Harry Potter, but if we say there's only series that started this year, or sorry, this decade, this century, I can't even speak. All right. Hey, we do have Hunger Games. Okay, all is forgiven, Illumicrate. We love you. This list was perfect.
All is forgiven.
Hunger Games #1.
Yeah.
All
is forgiven. It's okay.
Everything. This list is genuinely perfect. I wouldn't change anything. Oh, this is crazy though. I mean, if we go back to my overview, I think the most blatant, if we say that the series had to have started this century, then obviously we wouldn't have Malasan, but we would still have American Gods. I think that came out in 2001. I might be wrong. I think it came out in 2001. And definitely the Blade itself or the First Law universe needs to be somewhere in top 100. I mean, this has been fun. This has genuinely been...
Has it?
A lot of surprises. I think there are some generally really good books on this list, and probably what Illumicrate did quite well here is to have quite a good representation of different authors from different backgrounds. Did have a mix of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, which is quite hard to do, and YA and adult. It's really, really hard to make an ultimate list with so many books. But I will say, this is not going to be a list I will recommend my authors like to go to for the most impactful books, because I feel like the ranking is all over the place.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
I think that there are some books that, like Hunger Games, Percy Jackson, that are definitely in the right spots. But how can you argue that The Folk of the Air more impactful, better than ACOTAR? I really, if someone can make that comment or make that argument in the comments, please do. But I do agree that most of the books that are on this list should be on this list. I just fundamentally disagree with their placement.
Thank you so much, Vera. This has been so much fun, and I'm so glad I invited you because you brought a lot of insight to this list that I just wouldn't have. So thank you so much, and please go and check out her channel, especially if you're a big fan of Witcher and Cormac McCarthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Johan, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're still here and you want more? Well, the good news is that I have a Viking book club on my Patreon. If you join my Patreon, then you get access to an exclusive book club where every single month we read one book together and the book can be put forward by you. If you join tier 3 or 4, then you can put a book forward and then I randomly choose a book from the pot that we end up reading together, and throughout the month we discuss the book on the Patreon chats, and then we also have Zoom hangouts, which honestly are some of my favorite times of the month. This month we're reading this book, and next month we're gonna be reading this book. Also, since I launched my Patreon, I basically spent my money back into the channel on video editing. I've had more than 40 videos professionally edited, so if you want to support what I do here and also help me upload more consistently, then I'll leave a link in the description down below.